You are listening to Kaisers Kastle.
Hey folks, welcome to Kaisers Kastle. Funny thing I have to say to you today. I'm going to tell you why we are living in interesting times. Going to be very clear, and I'm actually going to play you a little something from an interview with Charlie Rose, Z-Big, and Kissinger, and also I could not believe, remember I'm a golf warrior, so Brent Scowcroft, these are all former, they used to be the guys that would tell the president what was going on. And so when I play this for you, it'll blow you away, because I never thought I would ever say this, but Brent Scowcroft was actually the most moderate voice, and I'm about to do it right now.
But I don't see anything.
It's not what they naturally want to do.
That we're going in that direction.
Okay. Let me close with this one last question. If new president comes to power in 2008, as he or she will, what ought to be the most important message that person can say in their inaugural address about America and the world?
I think that we are a part of the world, that we want to cooperate with the world. We are not the dominant power in the world that everyone falls in behind us, but we want to reach out and cooperate. After all, we're the ones that set up the League of Nations, the UN, NATO. That's the way we do business. That's the way we want to do business. We want to work with friends, with allies, with people of goodwill to make this a better world. That's the message.
Notice Brent Scowcroft was the one who stated that about business.
Wants to be part of the solution to its problems, and not in part the maker of their problems, and that the United States is prepared really to be engaged in the quest to give people in the world the dignity that they seek today, the social justice that they feel they're deprived of, and a common solution to global problems. But secondly, I think the president has to say very credibly and forcefully to the American people that to do that, what I just said, the American people have to think hard about their definition of the meaning of the good life, that a hedonistic, materialistic society at high levels of consumption, increasing social inequality, is not a society that can be part of the solution of the world's problems. And therefore the president has to project to the American people a sense of demanding idealism. Idealism which is not based on self-indulgence, but on self-denial and sacrifice. And only such an America is going to be credible to the world.
I think...
Notice that was Z-Big. Brzezinski. You know, remember Mika and Morning Joe, that's his daughter. So she's at the same thing. Kissinger's going to come up, but what I have to tell you, and all of you guys, when you listen to his words, he's now talking about something that Dano, okay, on the Castle Talk Radio Network, Dano brought up. He's breaking this, and none of you know this yet. Maybe some of you do. Maybe you're a little more sloked than others. Now the sloke knows where my intro just came from, but the funny thing is, what you're going to find is that Amazon had a data breach. Wonder where that came from. It wasn't the Russians. Remember who were giving everybody, and it's not because of Trump, it's because of the deep state. We're giving them access to our thoughts, to what we purchase. This is the reason why I said why we are living in interesting times. And that's a Chinese proverb. Everybody keeps screaming Russia, Russia. But if you listen, and I've annotated in my podcast that I'm doing now, or my live stream, I'm giving you things to look at, because honestly, it bores you if I go too long. You need to listen to every one of these things I've tagged in, and I made sure they did not link to any of those news sources, but they did link to people on YouTube. And the YouTube shooter, why I think she's totally, a freak show. That's the way it's supposed to be, because she is. And then on her, don't look at her, look to her dad. Trust me, her father. Look to where this came from. It's not her. There are things afoot right now. Remember, I have said, everybody on my page knows that I've said this. When they can say, local, state, and federal officials arrived very shortly, it's a false flag. It's something that was already set up. It's a known wolf. It's not a false flag. It's a known wolf. And that's where your mind needs to go. Now, Dano broke about this Amazon breach. I've had my data banged I think probably 5 times since I left Homeland. And they always want to offer me, hey, cover your data, whatever. I don't give a fuck. They did that to me. I don't care. They can put whatever they want on my shit. I don't care. But I'm going to out them. I'm not going to play possum and be a little bitch boy. And then if somebody wants to bring something to me, I do have the resources to, I'm actually laughing about this, to out them, because we can bounce back on them. Others may not have that, but I happen to. So I'll let you listen to Kissinger. I think you guys will all enjoy it. Here it goes.
When the new president is inaugurated, we will have gone through 2 years of self-flagellation. And I think he should step up there with some confidence and say, here are problems we see in the world. We would like to listen to a lot of other countries about what they think should be done. He should not pretend that he has all the answers. I think an appeal to American idealism and willingness to sacrifice would be an important contribution, because what is happening now in many countries, not yet in the United States, but in many European countries, it's the inability of governments to ask for sacrifices of its people. But maybe there's a lesson in what is happening in France, that the candidate who's had the most demanding program won with a surprising and overwhelming majority. But I think we have to transcend the current debates, and an effort should be made to achieve a bipartisan, nonpartisan consensus, and should be a relatively short speech aimed at this objective.
There are a lot of subjects we did not cover here this evening. Obviously, we didn't talk about Africa or Latin America, which are very important. We didn't talk about energy and the Green Revolution, and we didn't talk about global poverty and haves and have-nots and rich and poor. A whole lot of other subjects that we did not have time for. Perhaps we can reconvene and do that at some time. Prince Scowcroft, Zbigniew Brzezinski, and Henry Kissinger, on behalf of this audience, I thank you very much.
Now, what you didn't see was the glad handing during that video, where they're shaking each other's hands. You have to remember, this runs all the way back to Carter. People keep forgetting certain things. Z-Big came to prominence back in the day with LBJ. And then under Carter, they'll always say it was Bush, or Reagan, I'm sorry, that did this. But the fact remains that Z-Big was under Carter. So the Iranian debacle happened under him. Hey, Mika, your daddy did that. He also is the one, while Nixon opened ties to China, Z-Big was the one who wanted to, when I say that, it's Zbigniew Brzezinski. So I don't want, I know Jay Dyer, you know, his stuff's awesome. I'm not going to counter signal him at all. I will never punch right. But he sees a lot of things a little differently than I do, because I happen to live through this era and happen to have been on the ground doing it live on both feet. Now, here's my issue that nobody wants to understand. And maybe you do. I don't know. Don't really care. I do this for my son. This is like my time capsule. I have 92 people and a big orange couch that you guys can all sit on, and I'm glad you do, as you come into Kaisers Kastle, and pour yourself a beer when you walk in. If you don't want a beer or some other drink, an adult libation, you're more than welcome to get a tea, a nice hot tea, or a nice coffee, and sit on that couch and you just listen, because you're going to get more intel today than you ever thought you would. This is why you millennials, look, I'm a Gen Xer, and I know boomers, and I know you guys all dislike boomers, but I'm sort of the in-between, so I can tell you how this started, and I'm going to be very honest and frank. And hopefully you guys will get it. Now, I believe it was March, I can't remember the date, that we had something happen in Harrisville or Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, which is where 3 Mile Island was at. And when that happened, that was a major thing, right? And you're all used to this fast fashion, this Depeche Mode of, you know, CNN, this, that, and the other. But now we've broken a paradigm, which I'll get to after this. But I need to set this up so you guys understand exactly where this came from. And where it came from started at this point, and I'm about to play it right now.
An accident in the water cooling system at the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, forced the company to call a general emergency and shut down part of the plant for an unspecified period.
It roared with a tremendous roar of releasing steam. It woke me up, and I looked out the window and I saw this huge column going up in the air and roaring.
Everything is under control. There is and was no danger to public health and safety. There was a small release of radiation to the environment. All safety equipment functioned properly. Metropolitan Edison has been monitoring the air in the vicinity of the plant constantly since the incident. No increase in normal radiation levels has been detected. The situation is more complex than the company first led us to believe. We are taking more tests, and at this point we believe there is still no danger to the public health. Metropolitan Edison has given you and us conflicting information.
The new information is this. The accident sent ionized radiation beaming through the plant's 4-foot-thick walls. Consequently, the metal shield that protects the nuclear fuel may have been damaged.
Parts of leakage radiation is coming from our auxiliary building and some water that's accumulated on the floor. We're presently pumping that up. That'll be contained in tanks. And once that's accomplished, well, then the radiation level releases should stop.
We have absolutely no question about the safety of nuclear plants as a result of this mishap. We do not refer to it as a nuclear accident because it was not that. And as I say, all these systems went into operation as they should have. We think the record of the nuclear industry stands for itself.
We do have a new development. It is not clear yet the extent of this development. There was an uncontrolled release of radiation from the facility approximately 20 minutes ago. We were notified by the island.
Right now, I think the wind has shifted, and I don't know. I'm getting my radiological man in now. He's supposed to come in, and we have a Geiger counter. We want to check things out.
And instructed them to develop a higher state of readiness with the possibility of evacuation.
The whole idea of being able to evacuate communities that size is absurd. It's been absurd all along, and it's just governmental and utility nonsense to talk about being able to cope with a situation by evacuation because you're never going to get the people out.
We are advising the people on the basis of information, on the basis of a recommendation from the chairman of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, that they simply ought to stay indoors as a precautionary measure, until they hear further word from us. It's that simple.
Yeah, a lot of people are leaving the Harrisburg area right now. My own family's on the way to New York City right now to stay with relatives. A lot of people, the gas stations are flooded, the banks were busy, people were withdrawing some of their money so they could get out of here.
Closed all the windows in the building like we've been told, and we've turned off all our univent heating and conditioning system.
The release that was made, there may have been xenon, but xenon can be released to water if it's within acceptable limits. The release that was made yesterday was within the limits that were acceptable, and was. I don't know why we need to tell you each and everything that we do. Specifically, when we make.
Mr. Herbine, if this is a safe operation, Mr. Herbine, don't you feel a responsibility to a million people living around this planet? Keep them informed of every last facet of this operation?
We certainly feel responsible to the people that live around the plant. But one of the things that the people that live around the plant have to recognize is that we have to get on with our job. We're trying to keep everyone informed on an ongoing basis. We're on special alert. We don't know if there are going to be further uncontrolled emissions.
I don't like the sound of depressurizing, letting that bubble creep down into the core.
Not yet. I don't think we want to depressurize yet. The latest burst didn't hurt many people. I'm not sure why you're not moving people. Gotta say it. I've been seeing it down here. I don't know what we're protecting at this point. I think we ought to be moving people.
How far out?
How far out? Well, I get them downwind, and unfortunately the wind is still meandering. And at these dose levels, that's probably not bad because it's dispersing.
Yeah. But how far?
It's going to kill any people out to 10 miles. There aren't that many people, and these people they've had 2 days to get ready and be scared. 40,000?
Based on advice of the chairman of the NRC, and in the interest of taking every precaution, I am advising those who may be particularly susceptible to the effects of any radiation, that is, pregnant women and preschool-aged children, to leave the area within a 5-mile radius of the 3 Mile Island facility until further notice.
Or let me stress once again that the historic record of nuclear power has been an excellent one. This is the first significant nuclear accident that we have experienced in power plant operations in this country over a history.
The toll the failure was mild, which raises the question, what would have occurred if the safety systems were severely taxed? I am concerned, Mr. Speaker, and want to understand what reason I now have in believing that other nuclear plants in the country are safe for the people living around.
After the fact, I think most people have realized that these accidents have actually shown that the design of nuclear plants is as is claimed, that they are designed to accommodate just about any imaginable mechanical or human error.
I'll speculate, but I do not know that there were multiple failures, because I doubt that one would have gotten into this situation with a single, say, a valve malfunctioned or a single pump malfunction.
What's it been like here since Wednesday?
Conflicting statements from the governor's office, the NRC here, the NRC in Washington, and the company Metropolitan Edison that owns the plant.
There's been a severe communications problem getting information back to Washington. I was there.
I think we're very close to a chaotic situation. Part of it, I think, is a lack of credibility of what we're being told. Part of it's the confusion that's coming forth. I think it's inexcusable that we leave a private utility in full command of the situation, being advised and pulled and tugged and fragmented by the structure there. I think you certainly have to have military control.
We haven't heard anything from the governor. The Associated Press started moving a story about 20 minutes ago that the hydrogen bubble within the reactor is becoming unstable and could be dangerous. That would cause a potential explosion, and that's a very ominous sign.
We are concerned, though, about the status of the fuel in the core. There's extensive fuel damage.
How can you say it's not an accident when radiation is being detected as far away as 16 miles?
The accident did not occur inside the reactor in the slightest. It was a feed pump connected to the turbine outside of the reactor area. Now, that was a failure of a piece of machinery, and therefore it was an accident with regard to, it wasn't an accident, it was just a failure of a piece of machinery.
There's also a bubble in the reactor vessel that means that any change in the hydraulics of the core have to be carefully monitored. So we're looking very carefully at the way the applicant intends to get the core to a cold shutdown condition.
There's no relationship between that and what is thought of as a nuclear accident.
The risk involved is that the gas would expand, prevent cooling of the core, that we would suffer additional core damage, and with the ultimate risk of a meltdown.
I can't come to any other conclusion than that early Wednesday, that reactor had a loss of coolant accident. And it would seem to me that the core may very well be in the process of melting right now. We were suggesting that people should simply prepare themselves to stay inside.
Now with that you've heard, do you not see that Fukushima was very similar, right? Now, I'm going to get on to another thing. You know, everybody says false flags, this, that, and the other. It's so funny to me that I know this sounds like boomer talk radio to all you millennials and everything, but I'm trying to bridge a gap that you may not have been looking at. Something that is very dire if you don't realize how much your government lies. And our government lies. Honestly. Some of you will. Some of you are woke enough, slow enough, whatever. But this did not start from one place. It started from Carter. Here's something I'll tell you. On my birthday, here's why I remember this. Here is exactly why I remember this. And anybody who lived through this time will remember this. On November 9th, my twin sister and I woke up as we always would. We were both, what? I can't remember. 11, 12, something like that. That was our date of, our birthday. November 9th is very specific. The 9th of Av. It's always been called that. There's a reason for that. Because they are people born on that date. And we were born in war. And that was the Vietnam War. You can go back beyond that and see why the 9th of November is always significant. But on the 9th of November of 1979, we were 11, 12, roughly around there. When we were born, and when this happened, and you can look this up, I put it in the show notes. The show notes will tell you Z-Big, the man, got his first call. I think it was like, I've seen it range from, I had to do this for the needs because I know they're going to cut me down and say this, that, and the other, but it was anywhere from 2:30 in the morning to 3 in the morning, where he gets the first initial warning that first it was 250 nuclear weapons were being launched at the U.S. And then excitement happens because it's 2000, and he's like, well, I'll let my wife die here, without her knowing, which is a cunt move on his part. Micah, your dad was a cunt. So the funniest part to me when I think about this is he's about to call the president to say massive response. I understand that. Look, all three of those people, I understand all their views. I understand it because later on, I would be their nigger behind the trigger. Just being honest. Don't care about it. It was my lot in life. But as a young kid, I remember waking up and our mother listening to the radio, as people did back in the day, and it was before news talk radio, and it made the news on 610 WTVN. And she just grabbed us and hugged us. So, take what you want from that. Interesting times. You live in these interesting times, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because we did not put a stop to these people. Notice how they all glad hand each other in that interview. I understand it because I have brothers in the contracting field. Always will. They will always be with me. It's kind of the way it is. But when you have people that will propagate something trying to come up with a word for this. Something so devious that, and they'll hide it, and then they'll say that person's a genius for something, and all of them have done certain things that are groundbreaking. I can't take their credit away from them, but what I can tell you is it was done in concert, because you can watch from Kissinger, Brzezinski to Scowcroft, and Scowcroft's the most level-headed dude on there. I never thought I'd say that. Now, with that being said, here's the funniest part. You guys will love this. Reagan made a speech. It's all of the stuff I put there so you can listen to the speech. Tear down the wall, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall moment. And I remember that. You know, I have institutional memory. I saw it. I know what happened. And I actually started my service in the Army with Reagan as my president. And I understand where all this stuff comes from. What you don't understand is how deep this goes. When you're looking at Trump right now, you're seeing everything that was put before them, because they expected the next president to always, even Bush Jr. said the next president will always do, and guess what? Obama did. He did exactly what Bush would have done. So all you lefty commies, and trust me, Obama was a neoliberal. Not even a neoliberal. I don't even know. A neo-progressive is probably the best way to put it. Just like Hitlerly would have been. It would have continued the same policies. And that's why you're seeing the pushback on Trump. So, during the Cold War, I have a picture up on my page. Assist, protect, defend our own. That's from my time in the Marine Corps. My time in the Army, I was in Europe. I saw the wall. I know what it looks like. I know what it did. I know everything about this shit. And I was probably a hardcore Marxist. Every one of you on my page, or have heard on another page, and I'm going to do another video on this, or a vlog, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to explain something to you that you don't know. Just think Potemkin Village whenever you hear Operation Gladio. Same fucking thing. And that's something I don't think Jay Dyer, I don't think Mark Hackard, I don't think anybody in the Cold War is covered. But I can cover it because I know this shit intimately. Not getting into specifics just because I'm just not going to do that. Now, with that being said, what I'm telling you right now, you're seeing something that's going on that's totally false. Mueller, Weizmann, yeah, let's get the echo turned up on Weizmann. We know what's going on. It's the same shit. It keeps happening. And you have Antifa, who are the totalitarians. Communists have always been totalitarians. Everybody will always try to sell you that it's the Germans that did it in the Second World War. No. Just realize you're wrong. History's been lied to you. It's been lied to all of us. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to argue numbers or any of that bullshit. It's just stupid and gay. I'm not going to do it. But what I will tell you is, wake up. Look at things in a different manner. Now, with Reagan, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. That's one thing we all know that happened. We all know it happened. Right? Well, what happened after that? I'll tell you, here's what happened to every one of us, and I was in the Gulf War at that time. Actually, I don't think I was actually in the Gulf War at that time. I think I was there at the aftermath. Yeah, when they reunified. That's when the Gulf War happened. You know, I was a Marine by that time. But the funny part is, we all believed a whole lot of crap. I remember watching the wall fall. Where was I? Thailand? Philippines? I can't remember where I was at. I was somewhere overseas. And we were like, wow, this is something. You know? Pretty cool. And then at the end of it, when it happened, there's a video put out by Scorpions, and all I'll say is, here's the last bit of it so you can hear it. And we honestly believe this shit because we thought we'd ended everything. And if you listen to these videos, I don't want to get into the whole thing, but if you listen to it, they thought communism was dead. It's not. We are now the new communist. Don't think we're not in the U.S. And they vilify Putin, who is an oligarch. He's the new Russian emperor. You know, don't have misgivings, but he's not a communist. We're now the evil empire. But we didn't think we would be. When this video by Scorpions was put out, Windows of Change, we honestly thought we just defeated everybody. And yet, here's why I say Skullcroft was so knowing. Because he said in that full video, if you listen to it, he was the moderate voice. He was saying, you have no idea where you're going with this. And that was in 2008. He's been proven right. Brzezinski's dead in the ash heap of history, and thank God for it. Kissinger, I think he's still kicking. You know, hopefully he doesn't live too much longer, but probably will. You know, they have their thing. But when you hear this, you're going to realize, oh shit, institutional memory is something we might want to value and data mine. And it's the last couple minutes where we thought we were heading to the stars.
When you look at it from up here, you get an appreciation of our world is a beautiful place and we do need to take care of it.
Kind of amazing, right? Our world's a beautiful place. Now, look at something from a realistic point of view. When you look at the stuff from when the wall fell, they were traveling from country to country without having to show anything, just bouncing around the border, right? If I could have gotten permission early enough, I would have played some things. On another page I explained the entire thing with East Germany and Angela Merkel. I know this shit intimately. And what I'll tell you is the basis is to destroy Western Europa. If you think I'm bullshitting you, look what's happening right now. What do we have? Something in, what was it? I can't even think. Munster? No, it wasn't Munster. I can't remember the town it happened. We had another truck homicide. And the first thing they're doing, well, we don't know who did it. Yeah, we know who did it. But they're not going to want to talk about it. It's just not going to be common parlance. You know what? I'm sick of it. You guys should be sick of it. Honestly. Because it's gotten retarded. You know, are we going to have to be the plot of a bad movie? The movie was fine. I mean, I'm saying a bad movie, a B movie, but it wasn't. It was a good movie in the 80s. But looking back on it, was it supposed to be telling us where we're going to go? Was it supposed to be America Stands Alone? And that was the original Red Dawn. Except it's not the Russians. It's our own people. The problem with that little sticky wet masturbational fantasy, and I tell this to accelerationists and anybody else who listens, is that do you really understand what you're going to see when that happens? Retribution killings, all the other bullshit that goes along with it. I don't think they do. I don't think you do. So my thinking is, wake the fuck up. Just being honest with you. You know, I know for a fact where my house stands. I will never bend a knee to communism. And that includes coming from, remember, the oath I took. I can remember it like it was yesterday. All enemies, foreign and domestic. And the funniest leaflet I actually saw this leaflet. And it should be, you guys should all start printing it and give it to your elected people. It's not a threat. It really isn't. You're just telling them what you believe. And it's pretty simple. It's only a couple lines that tells everybody what you believe. And I think it's valuable. And when I say that, I mean it. Public servants. Apostrophe. Remember your constitutional oaths? Question mark. Hashtag we have long memories. It's not a threat. But see, they're going against, look, I've said this in every video I've ever made, or vlog, or whatever, however I've written it. What I'll tell you is, we do have that long memory, but I think they've forgotten we have that long memory. Because they think we're just Nancy boys. We're not going to do anything. The problem they fail to realize is that many of us do have those memories. I was able to go back to Berlin when the wall fell, years later, chill with my bros and everybody that, you know, was around me. And I may not be able to go back there now because maybe somebody will say I'm anti whatever, right? I'm a hater. I'm a Nazi. But when you look through the videos, I want you to listen to how many times they called the people coming across the border as neo-Nazis. They said it numerous times. You know, they didn't know who was a neo-Nazi because guess what? The East Germans goose-stepped. And they made a big deal about the final fucking march that these people did. Kind of funny, isn't it? And yet they're communist. And what do we see on our streets with Antifa? And in Germany. And they're not being shut down. Goose-stepping. Not necessarily goose-stepping, but Antifa. It's the same thing. They're communist. So every time you guys try to talk about nationalist, national socialist, this, that, and the other, whatever, I don't give a fuck what you call it. Realize you're stepping on your own slong. You don't remember your history. Those that lived it do. As always, I love having you all sit on my couch listening for as long as you want to. None of you are handcuffed to my channel or my page, and that's all good. That's the way it should be. I basically am doing this just to make sure that my son understands something that he never probably really understood. And that's the reality of my podcast. And my mentees. I have many of them. I think they all understand. But maybe they didn't glean something. And I always tell them, listen to me when I go from training to just going on a ride. And what I mean by that is when I just go off script and just start flowing. And as always, take what you can get from it. Discount what you don't believe. I don't give a shit. I don't have that big an ego. I'm not going to lie to you. Not going to tell you a story that's bullshit. And anybody that did, I'd tell you to run from, including me. It just happens to be my reality today. I went back in time. Thank God for YouTube. I was able to. And look at stuff. And I see the reason we're being invaded and the West is being invaded is because of those three characters. Z-Big, Kissinger, to a lesser extent Scowcroft, if you listen to what I posted, you'll see what I mean. And honestly, I never thought I'd agree with Scowcroft at all. I'm shocked with his afterthought in 08 how much I understand. He saw it, and they all predicted this shit. So if you think it's unique, you know, I can go, you know, get deep geopolitical on you, and even political in our own country, and tell you what I think, but it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. You need to listen to the thinkers that decided foreign policy, because they were all a part of designing what you're living through right now. Well, that's about all Kaisers Kastle has to say tonight. Remember, Dano broke the thing about Amazon, about them getting rid of your information and giving it out to everybody. He broke that. That's important to remember. I also want you guys always, not just my page, I want you to listen to stuff from both the far right, and I'll give you examples, TRS, therightstuff.biz, Daily Stormer. I also want you guys to listen to everything on the left. I can't think of any of their pages off the cuff except for a few, but I really don't want to give them the business. So I'm just look at everything, come to your own decision, and honestly, that's where you should be. Always thinking about what you're doing and where you're at. With that, I'll tell you, Shuff out.